Market. Your financial partners, Don and Gino.
We are your financial partners. Speaking of financial partners, in the first half of the show today, we had George Hartmann with Prime National Credit Repair join us, and I was kicking him out of the studio, but he said he kind of liked it in here, so we decided to keep him around for the second half. How you doing, buddy? Oh, Shannon, can we get that mic turned on?
There we go. Is that working now?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, glad to be here.
All right. Awesome having you here. And in fact, also joining me today is Dan Hunt with Cherry Creek Mortgage in lieu of Don Getling. Don Getling's actually out with Scott Crayon. Two of our Cherry Creek loan officers are helping with the SCB Youth Project. And I got to tell you that it's one of those things where there's so many nonprofits and so many charities in Santa Clarita, and it feels like every week we're trying to do something for someone and help. I had the pleasure of, today was just really gratifying because we got to give blood this morning. Dan was there. And
yeah, did you mention that in the first hour?
I did. We were actually with the Michael Hofflin Foundation, who we also help host the charity poker tournament, which this year will be towards the end of the year. And Children's Hospital was donating their time today to collect blood on behalf of Kennedy Ray, who's a local, I think 3 or 4 years old.
She looked about that age, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, and she's been fighting children's cancer. And what a challenging thing to have to deal with. So we're always involved with the Michael Hofflin Foundation, and Don and Scott are over helping the SCV Youth Project. And that's something else I had the luck of meeting one of the children that were impacted by the SCV Youth Project. She's now been a member of the group for I think a little bit over 3 years, and when she shared her personal story about going from suicide to just being a confident young woman that plays sports, and it totally changed her whole life. So it's really important that we continue to support these things, and we do here at Cherry Creek, and hope that you do as well.
Yeah, that's great. I gave blood this morning. It was just good to be there and see all those other people, helping out in the community.
Yeah, and I think the right word is phlebotomist. I think that's the proper term for someone who draws your blood. Said that we all lost a pound this morning by giving blood. That was awesome. I wasn't expecting to lose a pound this morning.
And we learned new strategies for the next challenge.
What he's alluding to is the afterburn challenge. On the last day, we're going to go give blood so we could lose an extra pound. Well, getting back to serious stuff here, wanted to bring on our other guest, is Rena Tarrant with Keller Williams VIP Properties. Hey, Rena, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm glad to have you. And I was just talking to Rena during the break, and we were thinking, I've known Rena probably 8 years that we've reconnected, and then somewhere in my past, in my construction world, probably 13 years back.
That's true.
Time flies. It really does fly. And the reason we brought Rena on today is to get some insight as to what she sees happening in the marketplace. If you wouldn't mind, you could kind of pitch your listing without giving the address today, but you could talk a little bit about that listing that we were discussing that you have coming up. And, more importantly, just what do you see? I mentioned that there was a shift happening in the market. We've mentioned not depreciation, but we've mentioned the flattening of the appreciation curve. And I'd just love to get your basic opinion on what you see. What do you hear from buyers and sellers? Because reports, as Donna and I love to say, although I look at these reports, I realize that before these numbers can end up on my piece of paper, something happened 4 months before this in the marketplace that only a real estate professional can tell you what's really happening. So what are you hearing from buyers and sellers these days?
Well, I think sellers are getting a little more confident in putting their houses on the market because they saw the appreciation that just came a few months ago, actually. And they are expecting to get high prices for them, so it's a little bit hard to get them to be realistic about what the market will bear, which is the only way you can sell a house now. And if they are realistic, they are moving. There's not a multiple offer situation like there was maybe in November. And so things are starting to slow down a little bit, but we're anticipating when the kids get out of school for the summer that things are going to go crazy because we have low interest rates right now. There is a lot of people out there that would like to sell and getting more confident about it. So I think our inventory will increase.
Actually, that's a good point. Is if you go back to donandgino.com and you go to the YouTube shows from last year, I almost killed myself if I had to talk about another show that had no inventory, low inventory. We sounded like a broken record. It was absolutely horrible.
Oh, yeah.
I think that now, and I might be off on this, but there's about 700 homes on the market or so.
Yes,
in the
there
Santa
is.
Clarita area.
Yeah.
And last year we had approximately 250. We're talking about an area with 300,000 people. 250 homes was just not enough. In
Right.
fact, 700 homes.
Yeah. That's not even close to where it needs to be to have a
But there's a lot of standard sales now, whereas most of them were distressed properties before. So that's really giving confidence to the sellers.
So
out there.
tell me a little bit about that and why, I still see this. There's homes that sell in one day, and there's homes that sit for 2 months. So where are those sellers making the mistake when they're sitting for 2 months? Is it quality? Is it price? Is it clutter? What's going on in those homes?
I think it's all of those things. First of all, a turnkey house is going to sell much, much faster than another one on the block that's the same price that's not turnkey. But if you don't have one and you price it realistically, I think you can move it because somebody who comes in with vision. It really has a lot to do with luck, getting the right person at the right time, and it also has a lot to do with your product. So if you actually research the market and figure out what it's worth at that particular time, then I think you can sell it.
So you just mentioned one of the research your product. So you have to know your product.
Right.
You have to know your market.
Yes.
You got to get lucky.
Yes.
You have to market the property. And the best way to market the property is still the MLS, right?
Right.
It's absolutely the best way to still sell a property.
Oh, yeah.
Towards the end of last year, we saw a lot of for sale by owners come up again. And what a scary situation that is.
When they see the mountain of paperwork that they have, they will get a realtor. They will, because there's no way that they can wade through all of that.
Is it just as big a mistake to sell a house in a day as it is to sell one in 2 months? I mean, if you sold it in one day, aren't you basically underpricing your house?
No, I sold one in one day a couple of months ago.
Did you?
I just happened to have a buyer that was looking for a house like that. They came in, they made the right offer, full price, and they bought it. I have another one for sale right now that's been on the market for a month, and we haven't had any offers yet, and it's on the same block. So, you just don't know.
Go figure.
You have to be at the right person has to come in at the right time, and there is somebody for every single piece of property there is in this city.
Yeah.
They just have to see it, and they have to be there to get it. So that's the only way.
So they have to see it. It's funny. We talk about this. Sometimes people, in order to get the keys to a home, you've got to be ready, willing, and able.
That's right.
And sometimes we meet people that don't have all three legs to the stool, right? They could be very willing, but they may not be ready or able. Or they could be very able, but I know plenty that are able and are not willing or ready. So it does take all three legs of the stool to make sure that they can actually get the keys to a home.
Right, and you have to know what you want and what you don't want. And sometimes what you want you can't afford, so you have to wrap your head around affording what you can get and learn to like that. So it takes a while to work with a buyer. It's almost like a relationship. You have to get to know one another and then find out what they want and go out and find it for them. And you can, because there's enough houses around here to do it, that's for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that you have to build that relationship, and we grazed the idea of for sale by owner and how dangerous that was last year. I can't tell you how many mistakes were made. You talked about the paperwork. The sellers that sold their home for sale by owner last year. I mean, if I was an attorney and I didn't have any work right now, so if you're an attorney, and I'm about to give you the secret sauce for all of next year, if I was an attorney and I was out of work and wasn't working for a firm and I needed work right now, I would find every for sale by owner that happened last year. I assure you, there's plenty of litigation to happen right there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because it's a novel. The paperwork is a novel. And it's hard for us as professionals to do it, so I can just imagine someone who's never seen one before to wade through that.
Yeah, and ultimately the disclosures and all of those things to maintain ourselves compliant. And George, you can definitely know that in the credit repair space, compliance is important. In the mortgage space, Dan and I know it's all about compliance right now. it's definitely a challenge to stay compliant, but the reason you want to work with a professional, the reason you want to work with a company like Keller Williams VIP Properties and a professional agent like Rena is E&O insurance.
That's right, and we have it. We have it. And we know what we're doing, too.
Yeah, so it's not only experience, it's also insurance. It's also the backing of a large company to make sure that you're protected, that their employees are educated, and make sure that ultimately you get good advice from a professional. So when we come back, we have a couple more segments. I want to get into a little bit more of the market. I really think that I think we are primed for another little rebound. We're kind of have a little perfect storm coming with inventory being available, interest rates being low, school getting out. So I like what we're seeing here. And again, it'll take till December till we see those numbers reflected on paper. So when we come back, we'll discuss those opportunities, as well as we'll bring George back and tell us how fixing your credit can help you get into this home at that time this summer.